Hi, my name is Rose. Please like, share, and subscribe. Making a recipe that's dear to my heart. We're going to be making a rib sauce or a mop sauce, and it's actually a recipe that I made when we lived in Alaska, and you can reference my cookbook, Cooking with Mrs. Painter, An Alaskan Experience. I will put the recipe in the description of the video for you. Now what's going to be different about this is in Alaska we use rose hips. Well, we don't have rose hips here, so we're going to use our apricots. And actually, we're going to use some apricots that my friend Julie shared with me from her farm in Utah. So Julie, if you're listening, I'm going to have a couple jars for you. Let's get this turned around to look at our work surface. And let's go ahead and get our cookbook propped up. It's about page 13 for this recipe. And I'm going to make a double recipe today. To start, we have 10 cups of apricot puree. Let's add this to our large cook pot on the stove. Now this is a lot easier to make than a barbecue sauce. Once you get the apricots pitted and pureed, and I did not peel these apricots. There's no need to do that. So that's 10 cups of apricot puree. We're making a double batch. And next we're going to add 6 cups of molasses. And boy, this molasses has gotten expensive. Let's give this a little bit of a stir and go ahead and turn our heat on. I'm going to put this on about medium, I think. It's a big burner, maybe just a little under medium. And next we're going to add 6 cups of apple cider vinegar. And next, we're going to use some of my husband's beer. Thanks, honey. He likes Blue Moon, but you could use any cheap beer you want to. I wouldn't use diet beer, though. We are using 6 teaspoons of ground fennel. And we are going to use 2/3 cup of coriander. Eight tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And again, I'm doubling this recipe in my cookbook because I want to make a big batch. We love barbecue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to use 8 teaspoons of cumin powder. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Use 4 teaspoons of cayenne pepper. This little bit of a kick makes it extra nice. If you don't like kick, you can reduce it or eliminate it, but I highly recommend using it. 2, 3, 4. And next we're going to do 6 teaspoons of Himalayan sea salt. I haven't tried it without salt, but if you have problems with salt, feel free to eliminate it or reduce it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the next ingredient that we need to use is garlic. Now, my recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of dried minced garlic. I didn't actually have any minced garlic, so I'm going to use some fresh garlic, and a half teaspoon of dried minced garlic is equal to a clove of garlic. You can see this is much easier than the barbecue sauce. The barbecue sauce recipe is really awesome too. And I like to pair the barbecue sauce and the rib sauce with our rib rub too. If you haven't watched my rib rub video, check out our rack and rib rub. And I'll include a link to that video in the description of this video as well. In fact, if I can, I'll add a end screen with a link that takes you to that. Sometimes I have better luck than others as far as those end screens go in my videos. The rib rub recipe is pretty awesome. All right, let's just go ahead, chop up our garlic here. We're going to want to bring our liquid mixture here to a low boil and let it simmer. And we're going to want it to thicken somewhat. This was super amazing made with rose hips, and it's equally amazing made with apricots. I dearly miss our rose hips, but when in the desert, you use what grows in the desert, and it's not rose hips. Great, let's go ahead and put this garlic into our sauce pot. And this is a heavy stainless steel pot that's out of a double boiler. You really want to use stainless steel for cooking. You don't want to get aluminum in your food, especially if you're doing anything that's remotely acidic. We'll be back. Our sauce has been cooking down for an hour. It's really coming along, but let's go ahead and take a look at it. So you can get a look at how the sauce looks. So it's still a little thinner than I'd like it, and thickness is preference. So a mop sauce is thinner than a barbecue sauce. I like mine to be almost like the texture of molasses, but not quite. So we're going to let this cook maybe for another 40 minutes, and then we'll give it another check. We're very close to being ready to can this. Our sauce has been cooking down for about 2 hours. It's thicker than water and thinner than molasses. I think we're ready to go ahead and try putting this in our jars. Before we get started, let's go ahead and get the heat on underneath our pressure cooker. I've added 3 quarts of water to the pressure cooker. Let's just go ahead and put it on medium. We can turn this heat off. Now, if you make it thinner, you'll have more jars. If you make it thicker, you'll have less jars. And also, I'd like to add, if you're interested in learning to cook with rose hips, be sure to watch my video on rose hip barbecue sauce. In that video, my friend Julie helps me, and I demonstrate, in addition to making rose hip barbecue sauce, how to actually get all those pesky seeds out of the rose hips. And I have some different jars that I ordered, and they look pretty different. And I'm going to try canning with these today, but I'm only going to do 2 of the jars just in case they don't work well. And we're definitely going to be wiping our rims off with this too. And with pressure canning, you don't have to actually sterilize your jars, but you do have to wash them. I think we are good. A little more in this one. Let's go ahead and wipe the rims of our jars off using a paper towel with a little vinegar on it. Make sure we don't have any sauce on the rims. We want all these wonderful jars to seal, right? Go to this kind of trouble to make sure your jars seal. Okay, let's go ahead and apply our lids and our rims. I'm excited to see how these other jars are going to work. Let's go ahead and apply our rings and get these in our pot and get it going. We are going to process these with 15 pounds of pressure for 20 minutes, and I am right about 2,000 feet above sea level. Oh, so here we go. Here's our issue. So I can put this on here, but these do not actually seal. Dang, that's really too bad. I'm going to have to dig through that box and see if it has any rings and lids that specifically match this style of jar. Okay, well, glad we figured that out. We only had a couple of them. Right, won't be using those. Let's go ahead and pause for a moment. I'm going to just check that box and see if they have a different style of lid that goes with these jars. So this is very unusual, but this actually does have the sealing agent in the bottom of them. I've never tried canning with a lid like this before, but we're going to go ahead and try it and see what happens, because if it doesn't work, it's going to drive me crazy that I bought all these half pint jars that I can't use. I think it's really meant to be done this way. These are almost more like the commercial jars that you would get sealed from the store, right? Let's hope. Going to work out just about perfectly. And I can't wait to see how these work. Line up the arrow. Very carefully rotate this a little bit. We're going to let this come up to temperature and let it blow steam for 10 minutes. Once it does that, we'll be back. Can you tell it's heating up in here? Our pressure canner has been blowing steam for 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and get the rocker on there. We're going to let that get up to pressure, then we're going to process it for 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and try the sauce. Let's see what this tastes like. And let me let you look at it so you can just see the consistency here. See, it's pretty thick. It's thicker than water, but not as thick as molasses, right? Let's just give this a taste. We're gonna try this on our chicken tonight. Really good, really good. Our pressure canner is up to pressure. I'm gonna go ahead and set our timer for 20 minutes. And let's go ahead and take a look at this chicken that I'm cooking tonight. I went ahead and put some of the sauce that didn't fit in the jars in here. Let's take a look. What do you think about that? I think Mr. Painter is gonna love it. So once the timer goes off, after 20 minutes, I'm gonna let the pressure canner cool down for about an hour, at least, maybe 2 hours. And then I will take the jars out and let them cool on the counter overnight before testing the seals. I hope you enjoyed making mop sauce with me today, apricot mop sauce, rib sauce, whatever you want to call it.